I never imagined that marrying Stephen, the man I loved deeply, would bring me such complex and indescribable emotions. Stepping into married life with him, I accepted every part of his past, including Zachary's son from a previous relationship who had just turned 21 and was still trying to find his path after graduation. At first, Zachary and I kept a polite distance. There was nothing remarkable about our relationship. I saw him as part of my new family, a young man I would support in my role as stepmother. But over time, things shifted. Casual conversations, quiet meals when Stephen was away. These moments gradually made my relationship with Zachary feel more natural, more comfortable. Zachary wasn't like other young men his age. He was calm, considerate, and remarkably mature. I started to feel a strange sense of ease around him, as if we were the only two people in the house who truly listened to one another. I used to think it was just the natural closeness of two people sharing a home, but then there were these fleeting moments, barely noticeable, an exchange of glances, a kind and thoughtful remark that caught me off guard. Was something changing within me, or was it simply loneliness speaking? I wasn't ready to admit anything, but I knew whatever this feeling was, it was no longer as simple as it used to be. In the days that followed, I tried to brush off the strange feeling, telling myself I was overthinking it. After all, I was Stephen's wife, a good, kind, and responsible man. Zachary was his son from a previous relationship, and I, as his stepmother, needed to maintain clear boundaries. But the more I tried to avoid it, the more I realized I was being drawn towards Zachary in a way I couldn't quite explain. One morning, while Stephen was away on a business trip for a few days, I was home alone with Zachary. The weather was crisp and cool, and I had just stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a thin towel. As I stood in the bathroom drying my hair, I heard a soft knock at the door. "Miss Caroline?" Zachary's voice came through hesitant but clear. "I need to grab some painkillers from inside." I paused for a moment before answering. "All right, come in." The door opened. Zachary stepped in, his eyes briefly passing over me before quickly turning to the medicine cabinet. There was nothing unusual in his actions. Everything was perfectly normal. But it was the silence between us that unsettled me. As Zachary turned to leave, he paused, his gaze lingering as if he wanted to say something. "You've been different lately," he said quietly, almost in a whisper. I felt my heart skip a beat. I turned to face him, looking into his eyes, trying to conceal the turmoil inside me. "You think so?" I asked, my voice slightly hoarse. Zachary nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips, but his eyes remained serious. "I don't know what it means. It's just that things feel different lately." The space between us suddenly felt smaller. The mirror was still fogged, my hair still damp, and my heart beating faster than I wanted it to. I didn't know how to respond because I was asking myself the same question. What was changing between us, and why couldn't I shut down this feeling? Zachary left the room after that, leaving me standing silently in front of the mirror. I looked at my reflection, a grown woman, a married woman, and wondered how could a single glance from a young man stir me this much? I thought I had everything under control, but clearly some things were beginning to slip beyond my reach. I thought I would forget that moment, that once Zachary closed the door and stepped out of the bathroom, the flutter in my chest would also disappear, like a fleeting illusion. But I was wrong. All day, the image of the way he looked at me, not as a young man looking at his stepmother, kept replaying in my mind. There was something serious in his gaze, something quiet and heavy, as if he was carrying a weight I had never noticed before. That afternoon, as I was peeling apples in the kitchen, Zachary walked in. He didn't say anything at first, just poured himself the glass of water and leaned lightly against the counter, his eyes scanning me as though searching for something. I smiled, trying to keep my voice casual. "Steven said his flight's delayed. He probably won't be home until tomorrow." Zachary nodded. "So it's just the two of us tonight?" I paused for a moment, still holding the half-peeled apple and knife in hand. "Yeah, I guess so." We had dinner in silence. No casual conversations about school or work, just the clink of cutlery, the soft tap of glass, and long stretches of silence. After the meal, Zachary washed the dishes. I stood by the window, watching the soft glow of sunset settle over the garden. Part of me wanted to retreat to my room, close the door, and put an end to this long, confusing day. But my legs refused to move. Zach, miss, Caroline says. Zachary's voice came from behind me. I turned around and saw him drying his hands with a kitchen towel, a flicker of hesitation on his face. Tonight, can I sit with you for a bit? Just talk. I hesitated for a beat, then nodded. Okay. We sat on the sofa in the living room. Zachary kept a respectful distance. The soft lighting gave the space its usual warm familiarity, but it didn't soothe the unease slowly rising within me. I'm sorry about this morning, he began, his voice low and deliberate. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, but I think it's time I said what I really feel. I turned to look at him, my gaze freezing. Zachary went on, his hands nervously intertwined. I know you're my dad's wife, but for a long time now, I haven't been able to see you as a mother figure, not because you're not kind, but because I feel something different. I inhaled sharply, my chest tightening. I can't control how I feel anymore. Every time I look at you, I don't see a stepmother. I see a woman who. Zachary couldn't bring himself to finish the sentence, but I understood. And I knew that from that moment on, everything between us had changed forever. The air in the room seemed to thicken after Zachary's confession. I stayed still, hands clasped tightly together, my heart pounding beneath the thin fabric of my shirt. His words echoed inside me like the steady beat of a drum reverberating in my chest. I had never imagined this scenario. Even though there had been odd moments between us, lingering glances, comments that carried a subtle undertone, I always chalked it up to my own sensitivity. Just a fleeting misinterpretation that would pass if I didn't give it any attention. But Zachary, he had confirmed it, and now I couldn't just pretend I hadn't heard it. Zachary, I finally spoke after a long silence. Do you understand what you just said? What it really means? He looked at me, his face tense. I know, it sounds wrong, but I can't keep it in anymore. I can't keep looking at you like nothing's happening. I lowered my gaze to my hands, noticing how my fingers trembled slightly. I couldn't deny one thing. I wasn't angry with Zachary. I didn't feel disgusted or offended. Instead, I felt afraid. Not because of what he said, but because the feelings stirring inside me weren't entirely rejection. I had been lonely for a long time in this marriage. Stephen, the man I once believed would be my anchor, had become a busy shadow in and out of the house, always glued to his phone, walking past me as if I were just another piece of furniture. I had grown used to silent dinners, to hugging a pillow at night instead of a partner. I couldn't even remember the last time we truly listened to each other. And then came Zachary, not as a boy who needed a mother, but as a young man with gentleness, awareness, and a gaze that reminded me I was still a woman. I made you uncomfortable, Zachary said softly, his voice heavy with guilt. I'm sorry. If you want me to move out, I can. I'll leave tomorrow. I looked up, feeling my chest tighten. No, I said quickly, then hesitated, my voice softening. That's not necessary. I need some time to think. He nodded, eyes filled with quiet sadness. I won't do anything to make you feel uncomfortable again, I promise. I tried to smile, though my heart was pounding inside my chest. Thank you. We sat together a little while longer in silence. I could sense he wanted to come closer, to comfort me, or maybe say something more, but we both chose to keep the distance. Eventually, Zachary stood up. I'm gonna head up. You should get some rest. I nodded. Good night, Zachary. He walked up the stairs, leaving me alone in the dimly lit room. Outside, the wind tapped softly against the window pane. I placed a hand on my chest, trying to steady a heartbeat that refused to calm. I hadn't done anything wrong, but I couldn't deny that the line between right and wrong now felt dangerously thin. That night, I tossed and turned. In my clearest moments, I told myself this was just a passing feeling, an emotional blur born from loneliness and neglect. But when I closed my eyes, I saw Zachary's gaze again, the one that didn't belong to a boy looking at his stepmother, but to a man looking at a woman. And I knew I couldn't keep living in this in-between space forever. Tomorrow morning, I would have to decide something, because if I didn't, what felt wrong might eventually become real. In the weeks following my conversation with Zachary, I found myself drifting through a silence no words could fill. The house felt too quiet now, as if every familiar footstep, every small gesture had quietly withdrawn, leaving behind a vast emptiness in my heart. Zachary had chosen to leave for a while to clear his head, as he put it. And me, I returned to work, to my daily routines, and most of all to the loneliness I once believed I had long outgrown. But this time, I didn't run from it. I let myself feel everything, unfiltered, unedited, no more excuses. Stefan seemed to notice something had changed. He didn't ask questions, but every so often his eyes lingered on me longer than usual, as if searching for a truth I wasn't ready to speak aloud. Then one Saturday evening, with the soft glow of light spilling through the living room window, he sat down beside me. Not with the look of a husband ready to accuse, but with the quiet presence of a man ready to listen. "Caroline," he began gently, "you're not yourself anymore. And I'm not angry, I just want to understand." For the first time in months, I cried in front of him. Openly, freely, I told him everything: the loneliness, the disconnect, and even the complicated feelings I had for Zachary. I braced myself for the worst, for yelling, anger, for him to walk out. But he didn't do any of that. Stephen sat quietly, his eyes glassy with emotion, and slowly reached for my hand. "I lost you right here in our own home, didn't I?" he whispered, "and I did nothing to stop it. I'm sorry for being absent. I'm sorry for leaving you alone in your pain." I nodded, tears sliding down my cheeks. His apology didn't erase what had happened, but it was the first step towards something bigger: forgiveness. We decided to start couples therapy, not to erase the past, but to face it, to understand how we had drifted so far and what it would take to find our way back. Ironically, telling Stephen the truth about Zachary made everything clearer. He didn't just see my pain, he saw his part in it. And I began to realize that whatever I had felt for Zachary, no matter how deep, was born out of emptiness, not a kind of love that could truly last. Zachary returned after 2 months, a little more grounded, quieter. He met me at the cafe where we once spoke about the future. "I've done a lot of thinking," he said, "and I understand now. I need to live out my youth without getting caught up in something that was never meant to be mine." I looked at him and felt a strange kind of gratitude. I didn't say much, just nodded. "Thank you for understanding." That evening, I came home to find Stephen had made dinner for the two of us. No flowers, no candles, just a simple, warm meal. We ate in silence, but this time the quiet felt like peace, not distance. After dinner, Stephen poured me a glass of wine and moved closer. "I know it'll take time, Caroline," he said softly, "but if you're willing, I'd like to start over, from the beginning, with you." I looked at him, and for the first time in a long while, my heart felt light. I'd like that too. We smiled together, and in that moment, I realized, though so much had once fallen apart, now, with truth, courage, and a love rediscovered, we had finally found our way home. Marriage, and any relationship really, needs to be nurtured through genuine presence, not just routine or obligation. Caroline's story reminds us that neglected emotions don't just disappear over time. They quietly create distance, making it easier for us to seek connection elsewhere. That's why it's so important to listen, not only to ourselves, but to the person beside us. Take time to have real conversations, not just about chores or work, but about the little things in your heart. Sometimes one honest conversation can save something you thought was already broken. And if you're feeling lost in your own relationship, don't rush to escape. Try finding your way back to each other first. Forgiveness, recommitment, and understanding might just be the most beautiful kind of new beginning. Thank you for staying with us until the end of the story. If this content touched your heart or made you reflect on your own life, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button so you can continue this journey with us through more inspiring and meaningful stories. Your subscription is the motivation that helps us spread more positivity and value to the community. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Have you ever been in a situation like Caroline's? What choice did you make? Your story could be the emotional support someone out there is quietly looking for. Let's create a space of listening, healing, and connection together. We truly value every single one of your responses,